You step outside, not for anything dramatic. Maybe to check the weather. Maybe to grab something from the car. Maybe just to breathe. And as you move from the porch to the gate, from the gate to the fence, something else moves with you. A mourning dove. It doesn't fly away. It doesn't freeze. It walks. Slowly, deliberately. Parallel to your path. When you stop, it stops. When you move again, it moves. And for just a moment, you wonder if you're imagining it. But you're not. This is not coincidence. It's not random wandering. It's not the dove simply being in the same place at the same time. This is a signal. And what most people never realize is that when a mourning dove follows you across the yard, it's not actually following you at all. It's tracking something far more specific. Let's start with the most obvious question. Why would a ground-feeding bird, built for caution, choose to stay near a large moving creature instead of retreating to cover? The immediate answer seems simple. The dove has learned you're not a threat. And that's true. But it doesn't explain the following behavior, because plenty of birds tolerate human presence without tracking human movement. Sparrows ignore you. Robins keep working. Jays watch from a distance. But mourning doves do something different. They orient. They adjust their position in real time based on where you are, where you're going, and what you might be about to do. And the reason they do this reveals something about how they read space, time, and intention. Mourning doves are ground foragers in open environments. That means they're constantly exposed. No thick brush, no high canopy. Just lawn, gravel, bare dirt, scattered seed. In that kind of habitat, survival depends on one thing: early detection. Not of predators in general, of movement vectors. A mourning dove doesn't just notice that a hawk exists. It notices the angle of approach, the speed, the trajectory, the moment when distance closes too fast. And it applies that same logic to you. When you walk across the yard, the dove isn't deciding whether you're dangerous. It's calculating whether your path intersects with its safety margin, and here's the key. If your path is predictable, the dove doesn't need to flee. It just needs to adjust. So, when a mourning dove follows you, what it's really doing is staying inside the radius where your behavior makes sense. You're not chasing it. You're not staring at it. You're not accelerating toward it. You're moving in a straight line, at a steady pace with no sudden shifts. And that predictability creates something the dove can use. A mobile zone of low threat. Because here's what most people don't see. The dove isn't following you for comfort. It's following you because your presence is temporarily suppressing the behavior of other threats. Let me show you what that looks like. Imagine the yard from above. You're walking along the fence line. The mourning dove is 10 feet to your left, moving at the same speed. There's a cat 2 houses down. A hawk perched 3 yards over. A dog behind a gate that sometimes gets loose. All of those are real risks, but right now, none of them are moving, because you are. The cat isn't going to sprint across open ground toward a human. The hawk isn't going to stoop near a vertical figure. The dog isn't going to charge while someone's standing in the yard. Your movement creates a temporary suppression field, and the mourning dove has learned to stay inside it. This is where the behavior shifts from reactive to strategic, because the dove isn't just benefiting from your presence by accident. It's deliberately positioning itself to maximize that benefit. Researchers studying ground-feeding birds in semi-urban environments have documented this again and again. Doves, pigeons, and quail will adjust their foraging locations based on the movement patterns of non-threatening large animals. They'll feed closer to grazing cattle, closer to walking humans, closer to slow-moving vehicles, not because they're tame, because they're smart. They've learned that proximity to predictable movement reduces ambush risk. And mourning doves, with their exceptional vision and fine-tuned spatial awareness, are especially good at this calculation. But there's a second layer, because following you doesn't just suppress external threats, it also lets the dove monitor you. And that monitoring is continuous and precise and layered with memory. Mourning doves have what's called high-resolution movement tracking. Their eyes are positioned to give them nearly 360-degree awareness, and their brains are wired to detect even subtle shifts in speed, posture, and direction. When the dove follows you, it's not just watching where you go. It's watching how you go. Are you looking down or ahead? Are your arms swinging or still? Are you pausing near the feeder, the garden, the shed? Each of these details updates the dove's internal map of your behavior. And over time, that map becomes predictive. The dove starts to know not just that you're safe, but what you're likely to do next. Here's where it gets personal. If you've been followed by the same mourning dove more than once, that bird has a file on you. It knows your schedule. It knows your routes. It knows which doors you use, where you linger, what time of day you water the plants or fill the feeder, and it's using that information to time its own behavior. You might think the dove is just happening to be there when you step outside, but the truth is more intentional. The dove is already there because it predicted you would be. This is not anthropomorphism. This is spatial learning. Mourning doves have been shown to remember feeding sites, return windows, and human activity patterns over weeks and even months. They don't need to understand why you follow a routine. They just need to notice that you do. And once they notice, they align. So when you walk toward the gate and the dove walks with you, it's not devotion. It's not curiosity. It's the behavioral output of a highly efficient risk and reward calculation. The dove has determined that your presence offers more advantage than threat, and it's choosing to stay in your orbit because that's where the math works. But here's the thing. Just because the behavior is strategic doesn't mean it's cold, because there's a third element to this behavior. One that's harder to measure but impossible to ignore. Familiarity. Mourning doves are not loners. They're pair-bonding, site-faithful, routine-driven birds. They return to the same yard, the same feeder, the same patch of sun-warmed gravel every single day. And they remember what happens there. If your yard is part of their territory, you're part of their landscape, not as a friend, not as a companion, but as a known variable. And in a world full of hawks, cats, cars, and storms, known variables matter. So, when the dove follows you, part of what's happening is recognition. It has seen you before. Many times, it has tested your behavior. You passed, you didn't chase, you didn't shout, you didn't throw anything or move unpredictably. And because of that, the dove has filed you under a very specific category. Safe enough to stay near, predictable enough to track, useful enough to follow. That's not love, but it's not nothing. It's trust. Not the kind that asks for contact, the kind that asks for consistency. And if you've earned that from a mourning dove, it means you've done something right. You've become part of the quiet routine that makes the yard feel like home. Now let's decode what happens when the behavior changes. Because the dove doesn't follow you every time. Sometimes it flies. Sometimes it freezes. Sometimes it moves away instead of with you. And those shifts are just as meaningful as the following itself. If the dove suddenly stops following and takes off, it's not reacting to you. It's reacting to something you didn't notice, a shadow moving too fast, a sound out of rhythm, a shift in wind direction that carried a scent or a call. Mourning doves are early warning systems. They detect danger before you do. And when they abort the follow, it's worth pausing to see what they saw. If the dove stops but doesn't fly, it's recalculating. Maybe you changed speed. Maybe you turned toward it instead of past it. Maybe you bent down or reached for something. That break in predictability triggers a pause. The dove is asking, is this still the same pattern, or is this something new? Give it a moment. If you resume your normal movement, the dove will usually resume too. If you don't, it'll drift back toward cover, not because it's afraid, because it's no longer sure. And if the dove moves away from you instead of with you, that's the clearest signal of all. You've crossed a threshold. Maybe you got too close. Maybe you moved too directly. Maybe your posture or gaze shifted in a way that registered as attention. Mourning doves tolerate proximity, but they don't tolerate focus. The moment they feel watched, they disengage, because in their world, being watched means being hunted. So the follow only works if you're not trying to make it happen. The dove follows you when you're just moving through space, not toward it, not at it, just near it. And that's the paradox. The birds that follow you are the ones you're not chasing. Here's what that means for your yard. If you want mourning doves to track your movement, to stay near you, to treat you as part of the safe architecture of their day, the strategy is simple. Be predictable. Move the same way, at the same time, through the same spaces. Don't stare. Don't reach. Don't approach. Just exist in rhythm. And over time, the doves will stop seeing you as an event. They'll see you as a feature, a reliable one. Fill the feeder at the same hour. Water the garden on the same schedule. Walk the same path to the gate, the car, the shed. The doves will notice, and they'll adjust not all at once. But gradually, the space between you and the bird will shrink, not because you moved closer, because the bird did. And one morning, you'll step outside, and instead of flying, the dove will walk parallel to you, matching your pace, tracking your line. And you'll realize, this has been happening for a while. You just didn't notice when it started. That's the real magic of this behavior. It doesn't announce itself. It builds slowly over weeks of shared space and repeated safety. And by the time you notice the dove is following you, the dove has already decided you're worth following. So what does it mean when a mourning dove follows you across the yard? It means you've been tested. It means you've been watched, measured, remembered. It means your presence has been woven into the behavioral map of a bird that survives by reading movement, predicting threat, and choosing where to be. And it means that in a yard full of noise and danger and uncertainty, you've become something rare, a constant, a known path, a rhythm the dove can move beside without fear. That's not a small thing, because mourning doves don't follow everyone. They follow the ones who move like they belong. Not as predators, not as intruders, but as part of the landscape, steady, predictable, safe. And if a dove has chosen to walk with you, even for a few steps, even just once, it's because somewhere in the geometry of your movement, the cadence of your routine, the quiet consistency of your presence, you stopped being a threat and became a feature of home. That's the signal. That's what it means. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Every time you step outside, you'll wonder, does the dove still there? Is it still watching? Is it still walking beside me, just out of sight, tracking my path through the yard like it's always done? And the answer, more often than not, will be yes. Because mourning doves remember, they return, they follow, not because they need you, but because they've learned that your world and theirs can overlap safely, happily, without either of you needing to change. And in a yard full of fleeting visits and nervous retreats, that kind of trust is worth noticing. It's worth protecting. It's worth moving slowly enough to let it continue, because the dove isn't asking for much. Just predictability, just rhythm, just the kind of presence that doesn't demand anything in return. And if you can give that, the dove will keep following, not every day, not forever, but often enough that you'll start to expect it. Often enough that the yard will feel different when it's not there. Often enough that you'll understand. This was never about the bird following you. It was about you becoming the kind of person a bird could follow. Steady, save, known. And that's a relationship worth walking slowly for.